Hey, everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Miller's Military Moments. I'm your host, Jason Miller, Master Sergeant Retired. And, listen, I'm always excited about every show, right? Y'all hear me say that. Like, hey, tune in for another exciting episode. But listen, this show today, uh, military transition, I don't even know if we should call it tips, resources, stories, maybe all of those things. This is an episode when we say we have unique stories and experiences, while I believe that there are a lot of similarities to most of us. But this story today is incredibly unique and valuable to many people out there that are going to potentially experience some of these things and can learn from our guest today, who is almost retired from the military. He is still in. And so it's going to be really exciting to have him with us today and share some of those experiences. And he has some incredibly tough challenges to even get to this point where he's getting ready to retire. And so listen, in case you ever go through some of this stuff, this is the show that you want to listen to so that you can contact him or myself, and then I'll get you in contact with him so that he can help you, work through these challenges. So it's going to be a great episode today. I'm excited. It's going to be good stuff because listen, we all, I love helping people. And that's really a big part of this show, sharing unfiltered stories from our military service. And that's what we're all about. That's what my mission is, and excited to do that. So a couple other things. Listen, if you haven't found my website, the best place to find me, millersmilitarymoments.com. Just recently got a refresh and got some videos on there from some of my deployments, and got some one of my favorite pages is the VA, is the not VA but the resources page. And there's veteran owned businesses that that I trust and I support, and they're my friends that own them. And it's unpaid advertisement, by the way. They didn't pay me to get put on there. So check that out. And then some of my favorite podcasts are on there too. So that's a pretty cool part of the website. But another really cool thing, by the time you listen to this show, which is really probably the next couple of days, it's going to be released. I will have reached 3,000 downloads of this podcast. It's really obviously because of all of you. I have not downloaded it 3,000 times, although some think I may have. But I had no idea where I was going to be, 8 months ago, and never dreamed that I would be here, sitting with Luke today, and we'd be almost at 3,000 downloads because people are interested in hearing our story. So, but it's incredible. It's really awesome, and thank you all for continuing to support the show and to support the veterans that come on and talk and share their stories. So it's really incredible. So thank you all so much. It's a great opportunity just to be part of the show and get a chance to share our stories. Which again, these are people that are some of the most amazing individuals that have walked and are walking the face of the earth. That's in my opinion. So, all right, into the show today, man. We've got Luke with us today. Like I said, he is almost retired, not quite, and he's going to get there soon. But he's got some really interesting stories to share with through the process of his, potential retirement and the transition. So, Luke, thanks for joining us today, and welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks, Jason, and congrats on your 3,000. That's a good milestone to hit. So, and I'm glad to hear that it wasn't just you hitting that 3,000 downloads.
Thank you. Appreciate that, man. That would have taken a long time, I think, to keep hitting the downloads. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's other people out there, but yeah. So thank you for that, man. I appreciate that. And I know you've listened to several episodes too. So,
Yeah.
Which I think is, how we got connected and LinkedIn and stuff like that. So yeah, man, but thanks, for coming on the show. And so when we talk about this really, really unique situation that you're in, we're going to talk about being out of the Army and not getting paid, to coming back in the Army, to getting ready to retire and already have a job, but you are not out of the Army yet because they haven't gotten the paperwork sophisticated. They haven't gotten it processed enough, and you should already be on terminal leave and getting ready to, perform those other duties. So, hey, listen, while it's great that you have a job lined up. It's interesting that you're more nervous that you won't get out in time to take the job or to, start working. So a lot of crazy things today. So yeah, where are you at right now in that whole process? And then we'll kind of maybe back up from there.
Okay, so where I'm at in the process, I'm pending my 180-day waiver from USASOC to be able to take the GS11 job that I was hired for. When it comes to the military transition side, my 4187 and retirement packet is with the retirement services. I've been assigned a retirement counselor. However, waiting for HRC to kick my orders down to my retirement counselor so I can do the most hasty clearing known to man so I can start working by the 13th of September and maybe enjoy a couple of days of leave before then.
So a couple things I just want to point out. I mean, we're recording this show on August 24th, and actually, I think I'm going to release it tomorrow. But right, so we're talking 3 weeks ish. Like, yeah, you're trying to get this done now, and then we're going to go back into why it's you're at this point. But so something I also want to point out, and you can expand on it if you'd like. USASOC, if people aren't familiar with it, what is USASOC?
United States Army Special Operations Command.
Okay, so
USASOC basically encompasses all of the Army's special operations elements. So 75th Ranger Regiment, 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, 1st Special Forces Command, which hosts both PSYOP groups, the 95th Civil Affairs Brigade, and all of the active component Special Forces groups. And then of course you've got your Special Operations Center of Excellence, which is also known as the United States Army John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center and School. Mouthful.
Yeah, it is. So
which is the entity that trains all the special operations MOSs.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And you're in one of those, all of those organizations, but I mean, you don't have to be specific, but just so the listeners know that's what it is, and you're somewhere in under that umbrella. And the other thing I'd like for you to expand on is the 180-day waiver to be able to work. So what does that mean?
So when it comes to getting a civilian job, when the general schedule jobs, the GS jobs, the Office of Personnel Management puts out guidelines or has guidelines when it comes to the hiring and all of the things that kind of revolve around the structure and the HR aspect of Department of the Army civilians and the like. And one of those is that was signed into, I guess it's a policy more than anything, is that there was unfair bias several years ago, and then leading up to the implementation of this policy, that service members were being unfairly advantaged to their civilian counterparts for the GS11 jobs because they were basically lining up these jobs before they got out, and the civilians that would try to get into those jobs didn't really have a chance. So what they did is they said, all right, now you have to have 180 days before you can apply for these jobs or before you could get hired into one of these jobs. The only way you can apply and get hired into that job is if you obtain a 180-day waiver from basically the major command. So we're talking basically DCO level, Deputy Commanding Officer for USASOC is the one that has to sign off on any and all 180-day waivers. So that is one thing that I'm waiting on. Requires a working copy of your DD-214 to be able to obtain that.
And what does it take for you to get your DD-214 at this point?
I need retirement orders to have a working copy of my DD-214.
So what is it going to take for you to pick up clearing papers?
Also, orders.
Yeah. So, right. You got to have those orders. Everything's just going to start there. Once you get those orders, then a lot of things will start to fall in place. But so it's a great explanation of that 180-day waiver. Couple thoughts though. My first thought is like, listen, I want, okay, unless they're not qualified for the job and it is a good old boy thing, then I want the uniformed service member to most likely go into that civilian job because they are the expert. Like, I, okay, the civilian that's out here applying, if they are qualified and they can really bring value to that team, sure, cool, I'm all about it. But in my experience, if that uniformed service member was working in that area or section or whatever wants to apply for that job, I mean, what more of an expert could we have? So I find it I don't know, interesting, weird, whatever, that they had to implement that, but I get it. So which is also, I'm glad at least there's a waiver so that you can apply for it. So I've seen a lot on LinkedIn, people having conversations about that, and many are not even aware of the waiver, or they will. I've heard people talk about how the organization, isn't aware that they can even put in a waiver, or they don't know how to do it. So your story is again, just this part of it is another example of know what's allowed, know what you can do, and go do it. I mean, if you want it, go get it. Don't just accept, well, we don't know how to do it. So we're just, you just got to wait 180 days or we're going to give it to Joe Schmo over here. Like, no, like go for it. Get the waiver. If you bring value to that team, they're going to want you on the team, figure it out. Cause there's also people out there that can help you figure this stuff out. Two that I'll just give a shout out to real quick, Lex Levin and Hope White. Not sure if you're familiar with them, but LinkedIn, I mean, the federal hiring system, I mean, they publish, updates on LinkedIn, when new policies and stuff come out all the time. And they have great resources and they help with that federal resume for a lot of the service members that are coming out. So to connect with them is a good thing. So yeah, no, that's a great description of that. So because so it's not just guaranteed you walk out and you can just go over that GS job. So you're working through that, but you need the DD 214 and which you need orders. And so why don't you have your orders yet?
Ah, so why don't I have my orders? Because I submitted my 4187 for retirement, along with my leave forms several weeks ago. Probably, I want to say 3 weeks in advance of me starting transition leave, permissive TDY transition leave. I was just going to take the whole block altogether instead of some people are choosing to do permissive TDY and do 5 days. The 5-day increments, take 20 days, take your weekends off, and then you got to come back and you got to clear for 10 days and then you can go on transition leave. I was like, you know what, nope, I'm just going to take it all at once, and I can pick up my DD-214 and everything is good to go. I'm done, I'm out, barring some crazy investigation. So I submitted all that 3 weeks before my proposed leave, and it got stuck in staffing in my unit. And being a large headquarters with not enough administrative support for the entire entity, really. There's one individual that does all of our administrative stuff,
Right.
and some of this falls on the individual, but some of this falls really just on the organizational structure, because that person is completely overworked and underpaid to do the things that they're trying to do for everybody and actually do the job right. It's one of those jobs where you've got 15 glass balls that you're juggling. It's not, don't let any of them drop. It's which ones are the most important to not let drop. And sometimes people's personnel actions are the glass balls that drop. And so that's basically what happened is my stuff got kind of stuck in staffing between that and getting signatures and everything
Mm-hmm.
else. It took every bit of 3 weeks for it to get submitted to the Soldier Support Center to Retirement Services. So yeah, um,
So
that's where it's at.
yeah, that's that part of it. Let's go back to, because some people will wonder, like, well, why were you just now putting it in, 3 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago? Listen, the Congress said you're going to start your SFL tap and your transition stuff a minimum of 12 months out. So where is your 12 months out mark? And what was going on, and what has prevented, like, why did you only end up dropping your paperwork essentially these, a month or so ago?
Which 12-month mark do you want? Because that's
So let's go back to two 12-month marks ago. Really, let's go back to that, if you don't mind talking about that.
so yeah, we probably should go back to the beginning and
Yes,
then work our way forward, just
absolutely.
because try to work backwards would definitely get
Yeah.
really confusing
Oh
real
yeah.
quick. So 2016, I was selected to be the branch manager for our MOS on the enlisted side. And I was the first E7 to fill the position. Um, and we've always had an E8 filling that position from the creation of the branch back in
Mm-hmm.
2006. So being the first E7, there's a lot of stuff to take on, but there was a lot of, I guess, expectations that other people had as well, for the position and what I would be able to do and accomplish. And then I had my own expectations of, using this as a stepping stone for promotion and be able to continue on in my career. So being at HRC and having access to a lot more just different systems, platforms, people, the whole 9 yards. It opened up my eyes to the world of human resources and how much I enjoyed doing human resources. And so I sought my degree in human resources while I was there. But it also connected me to other people in and around the greater Fort Knox area. I say that like it's a huge place, but it really is not.
Right.
Um, but what I did find out is that LinkedIn was, one of those number one things that I needed to get onto, because networking is going to be the best way to get access to a potential job in the future.
Who introduced you to LinkedIn? How did you know that that's what you needed to do?
I had been introduced to LinkedIn way back in like 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And I had started an account. There were other people, because being in civil affairs, you get roped into Department of State activities. You've got more access to larger commands, different entities, different groups of people, and they're like, well, are you on LinkedIn? Let's connect professionally. I was like, okay, whatever, right? So I had like set up an account, and I was no idea what I'm doing, right? It's social media. Like, this is just the same thing as Facebook or any other thing. Um, so I really didn't put any emphasis on it. It wasn't until I went and had an initial meeting with the transition counselor, transition assistance program counselor at Fort Knox, where they said, hey, one of the requirements is that you set up a LinkedIn account. I was like, okay, great. Because what I had done is around 2017, I was kind of at the 17-year mark, and I was looking at, am I going to stay or am I going to transition out? And
Sure.
so uh, in looking at that, I went and talked with them first before I set up any appointments or did anything else. I think I was at probably the 30-month mark, from my 20-year window. And so I was like, no, it's even longer than that. It was like 32 or 33 months. But regardless, I went in and talked to them. And they're like, all right, set up this LinkedIn account. Here's some other things that you can do or some other things you can look at. And so that was kind of the start of it as far as the LinkedIn side. And like we had discussed on the phone about the whole promotion thing, I'd gone into one promotion board with only 4 months of a change rate or evaluation. And I was like, probably not going to make it. But the next one was a 12-month change rater. So I had 16 months in the position, and I was really counting on making it
Mm-hmm.
on that go around. And I didn't. And that was really the big kick that I needed to start my transition. I was like, all right, you know what? Nope, I'm done.
Yeah.
And the following year rolled around, and they decided to select me for promotion after I'd already made the decision. And no matter how much you tell yourself, I'm getting out, there's nothing. I don't care about the promotion. Doesn't matter. When you see your name on that list and you see where your number is, because they've changed the evaluation system, the evaluation board system now to being completely OML based instead of being just a list.
Right.
When you see your number being up there and you really have a shot at getting promoted, or me, being that last legacy list where I had an OML, but there was only 46 of us on that list that were going to get promoted, it still does something to you psychologically. It still makes you second guess everything you had worked towards. And so up until that point, I had already completed all of my SFL TAP requirements. The only thing I had not done yet was the capstone.
Right.
So that was 2019. I was still at Fort Knox. I was still in the branch manager position at that time. And sitting in that position, I knew that my opportunities for finding employment around Fort Knox, they were decent, but it really wasn't where I wanted to be. I wanted to actually have a lot more access to people and things, and Fort Bragg really provided that. So I opted to wait on dropping my retirement packet to PCS to Fort Bragg and move into the civil affairs proponent to continue kind of working in the same type of capacity that I was working in HRC instead of doing the individual talent management. Now it's the out and up type of stuff where we're looking at 3+ years and policy and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of decisions to be made there, and I'm gonna go back to the LinkedIn, and I want people to understand. I mean, how important that is, and I got started on it in, I want to say, early 2020. I think I was similar to you. I had an account like years ago, and then I just didn't understand it. It was Facebook with dudes with ties. That was the only difference. So right. But I connected with a couple of people, and then I actually talked to them on the phone through that. And then they connected me to some others, and it kind of just snowballed. And then I started to understand the power of LinkedIn on the professional side. And so that is definitely one of my biggest things to people out there, like, especially, I mean, anytime, but if you are still in the military, like, no matter what your timeline is, get on it. You don't have to spend a lot of time if you're really far out, but get on it. There's plenty of people that can help you with your profile. There are specific things to do with your profile and how to set it up and how to do the right things. I mean, I can help you. Many people can help you. There's all kinds of people there's several of them out there that, like, that's what they do. They help veterans set up their profile, and because it helps with algorithm searches. And also, when you learn more about LinkedIn and that pesky algorithm, to basically, you've got to engage with certain people. LinkedIn really, really values the engagement. So the more you engage with comments and stuff, more so than likes, it will put you more out there, and it'll help you see those people's posts more. than others. And then what I've also really found beneficial is that connection through DMs is much more, I mean, honest, real, professional, I guess. It's right. So you don't, for the most part, I mean, you don't have to fear, the catfishes and the sugar baby, sugar mama scams that are out there, trying to get some money from you. So definitely get in it, get on it. I mean, it's a invaluable, resource. And like you said, I mean, listen, the stats change all the time, but it's like 80% of jobs are because you were referred by somebody within the company. So you just got to make those connections. And trust me, even the connections that I've made, um, I didn't take a job or anything from any of those people, but I learned so much about the transition, about, I mean, the VA system and, TRICARE. And then there's like guys that I know that, okay, man, if I have a question about this, Tyrone Hewitt's another one. Here's a shout out for Tyrone. He's really big up in the Hampton Roads area and retired Navy. But this guy, like, well, first of all, like many of them, if he doesn't know, he'll get you to the place so that you can find out. But man, he knows a lot. And man, I DM him all the time. I'm like, hey, Tyrone, man, what is this? Like, how do I find this? He's like, oh, just go over here or go call this person. Like, cool, awesome. I mean, it's a huge resource. So that's, you know, great that you were able to recognize it and got, in it so early, because so many of the people that I know, like they're retired or whatever, they're like not even on it. Like they're out of the army. They're not even on it at all. And I'm like, okay, man, like, you and I talked about it beforehand, that applicant tracking system, you can have the greatest resume ever. And that thing it ain't gonna pick it up, man. It's just, so yeah, that's a big deal. And then I loved your honest uh take on when you see your name and number on that list, man. You said it. Many people said, "Nah, I ain't staying in, man. I ain't taking the promotion. I'm out. I'm done." But when you see that, like, listen, especially at the senior levels, I mean, it's not easy, to get promoted. You were already, you didn't get promoted once when you thought you should have. So, that's tough to work through, but you still obviously were doing the right things and doing well. And then to be rewarded on the next one, I mean, it's a big deal. And especially to make the mass sergeant/first sergeant list at that point, like it's a big deal. I mean, I've got some friends right now that are going through the same thing with the sergeant major list. I mean, they tell me on text messages, I'm getting out. I mean, this is garbage, this is bullshit. And then they're number 5, you know, and they're heading off to school. And I was like, hey, I thought we were playing golf this Saturday or, in September because you were going to be here. Like, nah, I'm in Fort Bliss. Well, yeah, no shit.
Yep.
So, but it's okay. I mean, it's real what you're talking about. It, and people that deny that or say it's not a thing, they're not being honest with themselves and other people. Because man, when you see your name on that list, like that's a big deal, man. I never got, it was never old to me. I mean, it was like so exciting, like just every time. So it's a big deal. So now you see your name on the list. It's 2019 at that point.
Yeah.
So 2019, and essentially, if you accept a promotion, depending on, I mean, you're already in def at that point, right?
Yeah.
So indefinite, but so, your time starts, to get your high 3, which, so people understand, that just impacts your retirement pay, from the time your number comes up. So for example, we'll just throw it out there. Like if the list comes out in February and there's 50 people on there, your date of rank may not start till like 1 September or whatever. And then it's 36 months from then to get your high 3. Well, no, okay, not high 3. It's such a big promotion between even 6 and 7 and 7 to 8 that, you've got to do the 36 months to get more of a retirement pay. So it's it's a big deal, and then it's a big decision. I mean, because you've already mentally prepared. I'm out, and I've moved to Fort Bragg, which, if people are not familiar with that area, I mean, not only Fayetteville, but you've got, Raleigh Durham, right up the road. Charlotte's not that far. I mean, you've got a lot of opportunities, whether it's in the GS section, the military, civilian section, or just straight up going to the civilian sectors, a lot of opportunities. So it's a great place to be in. You've mentally made that commitment, like, man, I'm out. I'm out. Okay. And then this list comes out, and now what are you thinking?
Yeah. So now I'm questioning, am I doing the right thing? Should I take this? And it took some time for me to make that decision, because that would impact everything moving forward, because that list came out in March or April of 2019. I was already projected to leave the position in the fall of 2019 anyways. But there was still a possibility that I could take on the senior E8 position at HRC, since I was already there and already knowledgeable with the position, which is bring somebody to backfill me, the E7 position, right? So there was still discussion about that as well. So um, ultimately, I think I probably slept on it for, I don't know, 2 months before I
Wow.
made a
Okay.
decision that was like, nope, you know what? Because really, what it came down to is, at that time, under that promotion system, they had 24 months to exhaust the list. So that could be 21 years in service before I get promoted. Add on that 36 months. Now we're looking at 24 years in service. What does that mean for promotion? Well, I'm not going to be competitive until I do 24 months as a first sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have to be like the pinned on first sergeant frocking, right?
Right.
May or may not count, depending on who's looking at my file on the board at that time.
Right.
But really, so then we're looking at probably 23 years in service before I'm really kind of starting to hit competitive for sergeant major. Probably not till 24 or 25. If I get selected, oh, by the way, I'm backed up against RCP. So even if I get selected for the academy, then I've got to wait until whenever school starts, go to school for a year, then do 3 years on the backside. By the time it's all said and done, I'm at 30 years, and I've
Right.
done one gig as an E9.
Right.
And what have I really gained on the backside of it versus starting my career? Because working and having the education in HR, you start to see things like age bias. Even though they say, oh, you can't, there's no bias against age, and there's, you can't discriminate.
Mm-hmm.
That okay, if I'm competing with the same degree and we'll say the same type of skills against a 24-year-old college graduate who's maybe been in the workforce for a year applying for a human resources business partner role. And then you've got me who's got 30 years of Army experience. I've written my stuff to be HR related, but I have zero civilian experience in the HR market, applying for that same human resources business partner role. And I'm 49, 48.
Right.
Who are they going to hire?
Yeah, they're going to hire the young guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when push came to shove, it did not make sense for me to take the promotion in hopes that I would be able to continue my military career. So yeah, I made the decision to not take it. PCS to Fort Bragg in the fall of 2019. Started working at the Civil Affairs Proponent with the plan to drop my retirement in early 2020 to be retired January of 2021.
All right. So, something I definitely want people to really understand is that thought that you really put into that promotion, and how it impacts that timeline and your age and all that stuff's important. I mean, it really, really is. And I'll tell you, I mean, there are many people I served with in the Army. They ain't thinking like that. I mean, they're just not. I mean, they're
Yeah.
definitely thinking, short term, immediate, and the other side of that a lot of people think too, especially when they make 8 and 9 on the enlisted side, oh, I'll get a job. Everybody will hire me. They all want me. They're already lining up at the door. Like, no, they are not. And if you, like we were talking earlier, if you don't bring value to that table, you ain't getting a seat. So
Fact.
right. So that's not true. And I've seen so many of my friends and teammates have that attitude, and then they retire and they're over at Walmart greeting people because that's all they can get. And then their pride got in the way and they're like, man, I ain't getting on LinkedIn, man. Like I ain't doing all that stuff. But so really, you've done a lot of work and put a lot of thought into it, which is really important, that more of the service members need to do that. And hey, listen, I'm not saying it's easy, because I get the operational focus.
Yep.
Totally. I mean, I've been a first sergeant, I've been, a master sergeant, I've been, deployed all over the world several times. I get it. I mean, I know, understand mission focus. I mean, I'm not, and if you take your eye off the ball, you'll get punched in the face quick. So, but at some point you do have to allow yourself to at least give it the thought, the real thought, and give yourself some time to then decide, do I need to make this shift? And then what it is I need to do to make that shift. So that's really important, and good on you for doing that. It's a great lesson, for people out there, to take that time. 2 months. That's not common. I mean, people like a week, maybe a day, two, like, fuck it. Let me sign up. I don't know, whatever. So yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So you made that decision and you're going to drop your retirement paperwork. I seem to remember that something happened March of 20.
Yeah. Let's see. I got my retirement approved in April of 20, but March of 20, COVID hit. Um, and so I was watching the market and seeing everything and kind of prepping for this transition. And as everything shifted and jobs started going away and people were going remote and people were quitting, and there was just a lot of turbulence. I was like, man, I don't know. I don't think this thing's going to be cleared up by January 2021. So by June, I was like, you know what? I'm going to submit an extension for my retirement, and I want to do it through the end of July. We should be on the backside of COVID. We should have figured things out, and there should be a lot less turbulence. And so, you have to wait when you're submitting for any sort of retirement action. You can't be outside that 12-month window. So I waited until August and I submitted that extension. Meanwhile, starting with Fort Knox and working all the way this way medically, I was going and actually seeing the doctor for all of my ailments, every single thing that hurt, that was wrong, everything else, because I knew that if the stuff's not documented, the VA is not going to recognize it. And whether I get compensation on the backside of it or not is not really relevant, because I need recognition that this stuff happened while I was in service, so I can get seen for all of those things if they do become persistent or worse issues. So meanwhile, all of this is happening, I'm going to the doctor, and I'm getting MRIs on my shoulders and my neck and everything else. It turns out I've got labral tears on both my shoulders, AC joint arthritis, and everything else. So, waiting to hear back about my not my revocation, but my extension, and not really doing anything with my transition, because there's not really a whole lot else to do because I'm banking on this thing being approved. And lo and behold, I'm supposed to start terminal leave on 6 October and pick up my DD-214 on the 5th of October. And it's the 19th of October, and I get the notification that my extension's been disapproved at HRC, and I am supposed to continue on with my retirement of 1
Oh,
January.
oh my God. I would, I don't even know. I'm a planner, and these things just have got to be working out. And when they're not working out by a certain time, I'm freaking out, right? I'm what the, I don't even know. I don't know what I would do. I might stop breathing at that point. Just be like yeah, mind blown. I mean, what?
Yeah.
Holy smokes, man. So yeah, okay. So I mean, what do you do at that point? Like,
So totally mind blown. It took me probably that I think I got that notification. That was probably the middle of the week. And so I reached back out to my retirement counselor, said, is this a mistake? What else can I do? She didn't really know what to do because she figured that everything was going to be approved as well. So this caught her by surprise. And I like basically was in panic mode for about 5 days before I kind of just gathered my wits. And I said, okay, I know the guy who signed it. I used to work with him up at HRC. He's a retired sergeant major. Let me just reach out to him directly and see what he says. So I sent him an email, followed it up with a phone call. Of course, we're in COVID, so nobody's working at the office anyway. So phone calls are kind of just like non-existent. Nobody forwards their stuff. Not nobody, but people don't
right.
forward their stuff, and just timelines are delayed. So I think it was probably somewhere around the end of October, maybe beginning of November, I'd gotten a response back from him that said, hey, you can submit a revocation. Just list COVID-19 as the reason why you're revoking your retirement. It will get approved for sure. I had zero faith that it would get approved at the time, but I was like, you know what? I got to do something. So
What else should you do?
Right.
I mean,
yeah. And so kind of just, I don't want to say it was throwing darts at the wall and hoping to see which one sticks, but that was kind of it. At the same time, I'm having conversations with my doctor about surgery on my shoulders.
mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of going like, well, if I get surgery on my shoulders, they're going to have to keep me in anyways. I'm going to have to revoke my retirement. Like, how is all this going to work? And then in the notes that he had wrote up, the orthopedic surgeon, he was like, the soldier's basically a possible medical evaluation board case. I didn't know that, right? Until my primary care reached out to me and said, hey, the orthopedic surgeon said, you're a good case for the med board. I'm going to go ahead and put you in for it. I said, okay. And she was like, well, there's no guarantee that I'll get accepted, but the way things are written and the notes that I'm going to write up, you have a good chance of getting accepted. Mm-hmm. And then, that will trump your retirement. Yes, the med board trumps your retirement. However, you must still submit a 4187 to either extend or revoke your retirement. So I had submitted my revocation paperwork through the command before the med board acceptance, but it got stuck in staffing. Sounding familiar, right? Like,
right. Yep.
Deja vu from before except after. So yeah, somehow this thing got stuck in staffing and it did not get signed. The revocation 4187 didn't get signed until the 28th of December, where my retirement date is supposed to be 1 January. Well, right. If you don't know, when you are getting out, retiring, your pay is coded in the system and you are coded in other systems for retirement. So once you pass a certain date, and I don't know the financial side of it for the actual specific day for that next pay period, but basically, if you pass that, no transaction is going to stop it or start or anything else after that point. It's basically got to wait until the next pay cycle hits before any of those actions can take place. So yours truly was out of the Army, but in the Army. Did not get paid on the 1st of January. Did not get paid on the 15th of January. Had to take out a small loan to pay bills because I was out. Thankfully, they had started my pay and did the transaction, and then they had put in an advance pay for me. So I ended up getting paid back everything that I was supposed to get, and I was able to pay back my personal loan and everything else. But it was still the turbulence of the month of January that was completely just throwing me off. Meanwhile, I'm going to appointments for the VA exams to, still continue on with the med board process. And I mean, we'll just roll right into that because it's just, it just kind of feeds right in, right?
Yeah.
As things continue to snowball, they're snowballing in the wrong direction for me here.
It's going uphill. It's collecting snow as it's rolling uphill. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally defies gravity.
Right.
So anyways, and logic for that matter. So God, the exams go through, no issues with the exams, right? I go through and do all the exams. I had listed out, every single potential ailment that I had, and I actually forgot some, which I've added to my subsequent claim. And shout out to Rick Jones for helping me out with that from the VFW. Great, awesome guy to work with. But
that's awesome.
Outside of that, I listed everything because I had gone through. For those of us in SOF, we have an organization that we have access to called the Care Coalition, and what they do is they help you with a lot of transition stuff, but some of that is also with the whole medical side and the VA stuff. And so they kind of walk you through ahead of time, here's kind of how the process works. Here's everything you got going on. Here's the things that you can claim. And they basically sat down with me and we wrote out, every single ailment, asked me questions. Hey, what about this? What about that? And so, I really had everything well documented. So going through the exams was relatively easy. And then my stuff went to the QAQC with the organization that handles all that stuff. It's called QTC. And they lost my file. And it took them some time to find it. And if I hadn't called them and continuously checked up on it, they probably would have never found it, or I would have just continued to just be flapping in the breeze, waiting for an answer. So finally got that through, and then they sent it to the Physical Evaluation Board Liaison Officer, the PEBLO, for people who've gone through the med board process, definitely know what the PEBLO or who the PEBLO is or who their PEBLO is. And what they kind of do for the service member and in terms of the whole med board process. So QTC had sent all that stuff to the PEBLO. PEBLO had said, okay, you should be contacted by legal within the next week. I was not contacted by legal within the next week. I had to call the following week. And then the week after that, they finally had me scheduled for an appointment. So everything is just getting continuously delayed in an already long and arduous process.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, all right, it's going to be fine. Everything's good. Right. And so legal tells me, hey, we expect you to be 100%. What are your concerns? I said, well, my main concern is just being found fit by presumption by the PEB when my stuff gets sent. Otherwise, everything else seems good. We talked about calculations, everything else. Signed it, sent it back to the Pueblo. She sent it off to San Antonio to the PEB, and it was accepted on 14 April. And I sat some more. And then I asked questions and I emailed and I, was like, because I knew that this job that I wanted to apply for was going to be open in June. And so I needed a statement of service because I don't have a DD-214 or a working copy of my DD-214. So I need a statement of service to be able to apply for the job. So I was able to get the statement of service because I was so far along. My commander felt that, hey, you're probably going to be out by this time. I projected the end of August, between the end of August and the end of September of being out. So now you see how that ties into my 1 October retirement date. So apply for the job in June, still waiting to hear back on that. I'm waiting for the PEB. But I think one thing to note about that job, it wasn't guaranteed. And because this is about transition and teaching others, I think I can't just glaze over how I was hired into that job. I wasn't given it. I still had to apply. I still had to make it through the HR system and get referred. I still had to interview. Right. I still had to do my resume and everything else that's required. So it's not like it was handed. But
which is good to know.
Yeah. But it goes back to LinkedIn. It goes back to networking. So I spoke with people who had already held GS level jobs. I had spoken with our civilian HR rep in the organization. So I knew, things I needed to do, expectations, timelines, everything else. I spoke with the person that would be potentially reviewing resumes to kind of get some insights. Obviously, they're not going to tell me anything. And then I found out about Fast Class. And for people who are looking to get into the GS system, you need to learn about Fast Class and how to access it and the job series that you want to know about, because what's in there is the position description. That helps you write your resume before you even apply for the job. And so what I did is I just I took my regular resume and I started plugging in all of the things and kind of tailoring it to that specific job. And once it was all said and done, I had other people review it. I had a few minor tweaks in there, and I submitted that. I got referred, and when it came to the hiring process, there was interviews. I had to do a telephonic interview just like everybody else, and I ended up being the primary, and I beat out an individual who's got years of experience working at DFAS doing a similar job. So it took a lot of hard work, a lot of preparation, a lot of mentorship, and just being the dumbest person in the room, so to speak, when it came to that, because I only know what I know, and what I don't know, I need to find out from other people to make me smart on that stuff. And so hopefully this little nugget of information helps other people out. So
there's no doubt in my mind that it will. So you don't know what you don't know. That is a huge part, especially of this transition for us, is there's so much that we don't even know that we don't know it. So being the dumbest person in the room is a blessing if you take advantage of that and ask all those questions so that you know.
Correct.
If you wear your rank or position into a room somewhere and expect people to, either help you or give you all the answers when you don't ask and do anything, you're wrong. You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
because you've got to put in the work, you've got to show value, you've got to tailor that resume. It's another great point you just made. There's all kinds of services and people that can help you get your base resume done, but you've got to tailor it to every job that you apply for. So if you apply for 100 of them, you better have 100 tailored specific resumes. So I want to ask about the FAST class. Like, where do you get access to that? How do you get access to it? And can I share that information on my website for the people?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
I don't believe you need to have specific access. I think all you need to do is type into Google search FASCLASS,
Hmm.
and that should be the first thing that pops up. It's been a while since I've gone onto it
Okay.
to see, and then it'll come up with a screen that gives you a whole bunch of characters where you can plug different types of information in. This is where it's going to take, reaching out to the HR person, or looking at those jobs that are posted on USA Jobs and
Mm-hmm.
seeing there's going to be like a 4-digit code in there that's like 0301, and then you kind of have to know the GS level and stuff like that to kind of really narrow it down, and the location of the job, because there's series and there's grade plates and then there's locations, and there
Mm-hmm.
could be um, you know there could be 15 0301 jobs open across all the US. So you got to know what exactly you're looking at. But absolutely something that your civilian HR person can definitely help you out with
Okay.
within the organization.
Awesome. I mean, that's good stuff, and I'll look it up and put the links on there. But because yeah, that's great stuff. I mean, we all, I think it's at least the urban legend and the myth of, the difficulty of applying for a federal job. Everybody knows about it. It's, the resume is totally different than a normal resume, and how am I going to get it through the applicant tracking system? And well, you just answered it for everybody. It's not about getting through it by tricking it.
No.
It's just following the guidelines that you just talked about as far as tailoring it. So do the research and find that position. And you're not changing your accomplishments or skills. You're just translating your skills and accomplishments using their words.
Correct.
That's all it is. And so then that system will pick it up and be like, oh, okay, this one, completes 80% of what we're looking for. Boom, it gets referred. And then a human gets to look at it. And many of our teammates, like, listen, if we get in a room and can talk to somebody with that resume, we'll, I'm not saying we'll get the job every time, but we can articulate our skills and our values, and be like, okay, and they're going to be like, this is the guy we want on our team. But you got to get there,
Yeah.
and you gave some really really good advice and tips and on how to do it. And I think one of the key parts too is that you put in a lot of work. I mean, you said that it was hard work. You didn't just hope it happened and ask for some organization to do it for you. There's organizations that help, absolutely, and go be the dumbest one in the room so that you ask a million questions and then you learn. And then again, what were we talking about earlier? Know the rules of the game.
Yep. Yep.
Right. I mean, if you know the rules of the game, you're going to be better at it than the ones that don't. I mean,
Correct.
so we laugh and joke about it, but I mean, if you don't realize you're only supposed to throw the basketball in your hoop and not the other one, then you're probably not going to win, right?
Yep.
So I mean, this is really really important stuff for our service members, our teammates out there to learn. So that's awesome. So you're getting through that, and then hey, you're hired. You're awesome. You're hired. So it's cool. So you're going to start your job and it's all easy, and you're going to get out, right? That's what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. So I'm going up. I'm going up. I'm going up. Just waiting for the PEB to come back and tell me, hey, you're unfit. You're going to be out in the next 30 days, and everything's going to be good. You'll be, I'll be able to start my job on time. Everything's going to be fine. I'll be on terminal leave. It's good.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, I'm going to go ahead and I'll start getting my retirement pay and my VA disability pretty much, the month after I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
only to get the notification in the second week of July that they found me fit by presumption. Presuming I had continued on with retirement, then I would not have been medically discharged, is basically how that, works out.
Right.
It didn't matter that I had submitted my 4187 to revoke my retirement beforehand, listing COVID had, and it had nothing to do with the med board. It mattered that it was approved after I was put in for the med board and
Wow.
accepted into the med board. So they looked at those two dates. Did I have grounds for appeal? Yes, because on 6 December 2020, I broke my collarbone. So I had a new condition that I could have listed, and that would give me grounds for appeal. I had more deterioration of my condition because my collarbone didn't heal properly. Because of the labral tears, I was not able to do and complete all the physical therapy to allow me to heal because I just don't have the motion and the strength and everything else in my shoulders to be able to heal the way I was supposed to. So I met 2 of the 3 requirements for appeal. You only need 1.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it didn't make sense for me to continue in that process because then I'd have to give up this GS11 job. It's a guaranteed job. So the only gain that I get out of that is I get to stay in service for another 6 to 12 months, depending on how long the appeal takes.
Right.
They may or may not find in my favor. They probably would. However, the only compensation benefit I get out of that is that most of my retirement income could have been tax-free, but it wasn't guaranteed because it's dependent on your condition, your disqualifying condition,
right,
being related to combat. And while my condition for both of my shoulders and my neck, which were my disqualifying conditions amongst all the other ailments, even though those were started in combat, they didn't get worse until after I was already working staff jobs.
Right.
And that's when they really progressively got worse. So there's, Afghanistan deployment in 2012, and then went to East Africa in 2014. And then the rest of the time from mid 2014 until now has all been staff.
Right.
Sitting behind a desk, sitting behind a computer, not really, doing a whole lot. Oh, and by the way, you got airborne operations and everything else in there, right, continuing to degrade the body. So yeah, of course, I mean, things progressively get worse as you get older. So all that said and done, I was like, you know what? I reached out to my network on LinkedIn. I got a lot of different just responses of like, yes, you should do it. No, you should not. Like, I was like, okay, well, ultimately this decision is on me anyway. So thanks for everybody's feedback because they really did help kind of tailor my decision. For sure. There was just a lot of other white noise that I don't think I was expecting, although I probably should have been expecting.
Yeah.
And I think my biggest lesson learned up to that point was the fact that I had banked on the PEB finding me unfit, and I should have planned for them finding me fit by presumption, and said, okay, what if? The problem though is with retirement, you're able to backwards plan, right? You can go, you've got a set end date. For sure I will be out on this day.
Yeah.
And so now you can work backwards with all your career skills programs, your cool stuff, everything, all your education, SFL TAP, everything all the way out. But with the med board, everything is the next target, right? You hit one and now it's the next 25-meter target. And then it's the next one. And that's the next one. You don't have a specific end date until you get your results back from the PEB. And when you get the results of being fit by presumption, you don't have an end date.
Right. So, I mean, you're staying in the Army now.
Right. Exactly. So,
and you have no retirement packet because it was already denied and or accepted. And then your revocation was right. So, yeah. And that's a great point for those, that are going through the med board process. And so listen, this show, again, it's not always just for the retired, for someone that's going through the retirement process. These, transition stories are for anybody that, has ETSing, expiration term of service for the Army, did 6 years or, whatever, coming, and then the med board process. And this is something that our service members are not aware of until it's happening. And then also our civilian counterparts don't understand, which is why it's great for them to hear this, that, right, you have no idea when you start this, when you're getting out. And just for example, I dropped my retirement paperwork 1 August 2020. I got my retirement orders September 7th, 2020. I was approved for retirement. 1 August 2020 is my retirement date. I was signing out on leave 22 April. So now I have all that, predictability to figure out everything I need to do between then. When you're in your situation, okay, yes, you should have assumed the worst, right? And then so that you can plan for the worst. But I mean, and a lot of times in those situations, you're not, especially for people that are dealing with some of the mental health challenges. They're focusing on that stuff and trying to get healthy and get better. They're not, right. They're just, they're not in the right frame of mind to start really focusing on, oh, well, what if I get assumed I'm staying in? And then, so that's good stuff for people to learn and listen to. Was that med board process is a lot different. And when you're done, like, oh, your time here it is, you're good, now get out. Like, oh, well, shoot, you mean next month? Like, what, where am I going? Yeah. So that can happen. So yeah, it's definitely good stuff, good lessons learned. I mean, and tips for those out there, which is again why you and I were talking about, this show is not just for people that are out. I mean, this is, we're trying to get these stories to those that are in, so they can learn from all of us that are, either made the mistakes or went through these systems and processes, so that you can, hopefully have a better time when you get out.
Right. Yeah, for real. Don't do some of the things that I've done. There's a lot of discovery learning there, but I think a lot of it too is just as I made a plan, and I made plans to make plans, right?
Yeah.
The reality is I had pretty much a pace plan for every single flashpoint in my timeline, right? So, all right, I've got this plan. All right, I'm going to execute this primary plan. Oh, you know what? This kind of changed. All right, kind of the alternate plan, but it's still on the same timeline. Oh crap! Flashpoint, new plan. All right, well, I guess we're going this route.
Mm-hmm.
And and you just continuously do it. And so you talked about before that sometimes you make a plan and then you've got to adjust that plan and then you've got to adjust that plan again. Well, in my timeline from 2017 to 2021, I think I've made more adjustments to my plan than I can count. But I cannot stress the importance of having the network to help me make that next plan in a quick and timely fashion. People that I connected with early on LinkedIn, and there's a great individual that works at the Fort Knox SFL TAP that runs their TAP page, and he was just phenomenal with being able to connect me with different individuals. Michael Quinn, hands down, set me up for success, not really personally, but just by following him and seeing his content and what he was putting out. And he and I have, had disagreements about, the way he puts things out, or, some of the things that he's putting out or whatever. But you know what? There's a great function on social media. It's called scrolling, right? If I don't like it, I just scroll on. I don't have to get on there and start bashing and berating people. If the content doesn't apply to me, or if it doesn't fit my situation, guess what? I'm moving on, and it just didn't apply to me. Maybe it applies to someone else, and that's fine. He's catering to, the lot of military transition. So I have absolutely no beef against him or anything that he says or does. It's all strictly professional, and what I can take and tailor and recommend for other people. And Matt Quick is another one that I've been connected with for quite a while that's definitely helped out as well. Um, and thankfully I had a quasi professional relationship with him before, so reaching out to him through LinkedIn was relatively easy, because before he had transitioned out, he was spearheading the recruitment for the SFABs.
Mm-hmm.
And so he stood that program up, and we had worked a deal to get one of our soldiers in there as a recruiter for the SFAB. So I had worked with him on a pretty regular basis while he got that stood up. So that just helped me ease into that conversation with him about different transition stuff. So yeah, and there's a host of other people that I'm connected with that have helped tailor things for me, specific to HR stuff. Gary Steensgard, Bill Kiefer, Chris Thorne, like just you get connected with these people and you see the things that they post. Um, any service member looking to transition into the civilian sector needs to be connected with these type of people, because it helps you understand the HR side of it, so you know how the system kind of works, but it's going to be different for every company. So that's why reaching out to those specific company recruiters and hiring managers, and having those relationships is so important. Those guys are the ones that open the door for you, though.
Yeah, no, it's because I know every one of those people that you're talking about too, and it's interesting. You mentioned you didn't see eye to eye with Michael Quinn specifically on some things. I definitely didn't either, um, and but he does provide a valuable service, knowledge, content for the service members, and if you don't like it, you can just keep scrolling for sure. Or ultimately you can not be a part of his network, or what my advice, what I would say is get in everybody's network at first, and then once you get better at it or understanding what you want in your network, then you can kind of start maybe picking people apart. I don't really want that in my timeline, but absolutely those guys, Michael Quinn, Matt Quick, Chris Thorne, I mean, all those guys, Jason Smith, there's a bunch of them that are just really do some. I think maybe some of the initial lessons for the service members when they first get on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I know Michael Quinn's really famous, or not famous, but popular with his LinkedIn stuff and the USO webinars, and can really get you started with some of those basics of your profile and engagement, and and he'll help you through that. So yeah, I think that's really important, to just be open to everything at first, and then you can just kind of decide like, well, that's just not for me or whatever, and you can figure that out on your own. But it's just incredibly important, it really is, to connect and build that network. You just don't know who is ultimately going to be the one that maybe helps you, or it sends you that DM that says, hey, I got a connection for you. So it's huge.
Yeah,
It's huge.
absolutely.
Um,
I would say too, one other individual that comes to mind that's definitely helped in the transition process, though again, not directly, just by virtue of being on the platform and seeing the content, is Herb Thompson. And the most unlikely of successful people, in terms of how he looks, you know, um, people have said, who is this guy? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You cannot judge somebody by their photograph at all. And he is case in point on that. um, you know Both him and everybody else, just it's the amount of information that they put out, and just the help that they can provide just by the content that they put out
Mm-hmm.
is phenomenal. So
No, I agree. So I think Herb's book, The Transition Mission, was the first transition book that I read.
yep.
First one that I paid for and had it delivered, and I still have it. That was the first one, and you're right. So I mean, the book is good, but I'm not sure which one's better, his beard or his book. So you've got a good point. I mean, this guy, it really, I follow his content and kind of have followed his journey, and I steal his words all the time, and I do feel bad. But own your journey. I just, it's, and so you have owned your journey. I mean,
Yeah.
you are a great example to everyone of owning it. So if something was messed up, you took responsibility. It ain't my fault, it ain't their fault. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. I've got to figure it out. I've got to get to step two. I can't just, well, it didn't work. Okay, I guess I'm just, gonna hang out here. No,
Yeah.
you got to own it. Like, you've got to keep moving and keep going to get to that end point in your goal. So, I love that about Own Your Journey. Herb's, book and his content is really, really great. And you're definitely a great example of owning your journey for sure. And those guys, I mean, just really that LinkedIn connections can get you started.
Yep.
And then, now we can talk about the algorithms. Like, one thing I'll say is, like, if you want to maintain that network and the connections, you've got to maintain some consistency on LinkedIn, because if you disappear for too long, and I'm not saying just post bullshit to post stuff, but if you don't engage on people's posts, or don't at least regularly post your own stuff, LinkedIn will bury you. And when you come back, it's going to take you a while to kind of get back in it. So just again, this isn't a LinkedIn show, but it's important to know. I mean, that massaging those algorithms, and just, but it comes down to, what is it that you want out of it? The guy that he retired same time I did from Bragg. He was a serial commenter, but never a poster. And
Yep.
he just got a job, and so he posted, and he said, I know I never post anything, but I got a job, and thank you for all these people that helped me. And but he figured out how to use it for him.
Yep.
And that's the key. So you don't have to be this serial poster. And Michael Quinn talks about that too.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Definitely.
But yeah, no, that's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. And I think, really, and like we love to do on the show, is just helping other people. I've only been retired 23 days, and I swear, like, my wife and I were talking about this morning, like, we feel like we learn something new about some part of this process every day.
Yeah.
Like, well, how do we not know that? And I'm like, I don't know, like, it's just so right. I mean, you've got to, the more that we can share these lessons and hopefully help others out there. I'll just say, I'll throw this one out there. Have you heard of the Chapter 35 VA education benefits through the VA?
That's on the is it 35? That's Voc Rehab.
Mm-mm.
Okay, no, it's something different. So I'm already connected with the other chapter. Is it 31 maybe? That's Voc Rehab.
Could be.
Yeah, so I'm already enrolled with Voc Rehab. Like we had talked about before, I'm going back to college in October.
Right.
To finish out a few classes, and they're paying for all of it.
Nice.
But it's another chapter stream of money to be able to continue education and get a little bit more than you do with the GI Bill, because they'll get you a computer and some other stuff too to help you. The only caveat is you have to be at least 30% disabled to use Voc Rehab.
Right. And there you go. And so Chapter 35 is, it has to do if you're 100% disabled, and which I am. And there's all kinds of things that open up with that, but nobody tells you these things. We stumbled across it. And so my son, we only have one kid, and I already have, education and stuff. So we transferred all the post 9/11 GI Bill benefits to him. He's starting his freshman year. He's in school, GI Bill. He gets the GI Bill stipend. And then Chapter 35, because I'm 100% disabled, gives him another $1,200 a month of cash.
Nice.
Right. Like, I mean, and so because he was filling out the application online and he was confused. He's like, I don't, so wait a minute. So you're telling me I'm going to get the GI Bill stipend every month and I'm going to get this? I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
like that's what they said. And, and he was like, okay. Like, I mean, that's awesome. It's incredible. But again, I didn't know that. How many other, because nobody, like the VA didn't tell me,
Right.
like, hey, because you have this and your kids in school, maybe they should, because look, you can see that my kids in school, like on the VA thing, you have to put all your dependents and what they're doing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But right, I mean, that's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big deal. He potentially could have enough cash to pay for graduate school and not have to borrow any money.
Yeah.
I mean, due to the 9/11 GI Bill and his other scholarships, he shouldn't have to. He should come out of undergrad debt free too, and then now he should actually have some cash to possibly pay for grad school. Right?
That is huge.
Huge. So, hey, again, be the dumbest one in the room. I love that. I think I'm going to say that like all the time. That's my new saying, Luke. Be the dumbest one in the room and ask so many questions because you don't know. Like, man, it's amazing. So this was awesome. I mean, again, your story is so unique, but some of it really comes down to the same lessons,
Yep.
same tips, same resources, but you've got to go get it. We'll throw Herb Thompson a bone here and again. You got to own your journey, man.
Yep.
Own it. Like, I don't want to go be a greeter at Walmart when I get out. I mean, I'm a podcaster. I'm not sure that's much better, but no, I love doing what I'm doing, but right. So figure it out what you want to do. And, we talked about that too, like, or however, whatever timeline that is on you, but you got to give yourself time to figure that out. What is it that you really want to do when you leave the military?
Yeah.
I mean, if you, is it just whatever the same job you're doing? That's cool. Then go do it. Figure it out how to make it happen and go do it. Just like you did. You got a GS job, but you got to wait 180 days. Oh, I can get a waiver. Cool. So let's get that done. If you, for all of my aviation teammates, that can go work on, aircraft and stuff. Cool. Go do it. Get your A&P before you get out, make the Army pay for that, then go do that thing. I don't want to do anything aviation, man. I'm done with those stupid helicopters. Cool, man. Go do whatever you want to do. Find out what that is. Find out the steps to make it happen and make it happen. And then have that pace plan times like cubed, like, like so many opportunities. So no, it's good. Anything as we wrap this up, anything else that you'd like to leave for the listeners? Any other tips, resources, just one more thing, if you didn't learn anything from this, learn this, or, anything like that.
Yeah. So I think, you know what, shameless plug, but it does play into having, plans, and not just having a plan, but actually executing those plans. So one of my contingency plans was, if everything didn't work out the way I wanted it to, I would get into real estate. Well, the only way to get into real estate is by taking the pre-licensing stuff, passing the pre-licensing, which is difficult in itself, and then taking the national estate exam and earning your license, which I was able to do over the course of the last, several months leading up to this. So, yeah, and believe me, out of the 21 years I've been in service and the number of classes I've taken, both through the military and through college, there is not one class that compares to the difficulty that comes with the real estate school. If it's something that you're even remotely interested in, you better be into it 100%. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You're going to struggle heavily. So yeah, And I say that's a shameless plug just because I'm a real estate agent, so I'd be happy to represent anybody who wants to buy or sell. Working with Coldwell Banker Advantage, I'm able to refer people to different agents across the country. So it doesn't just have to be specific to Fayetteville, Fort Bragg area. But yeah, that was just part of one of my alternate plans once I had hit the med board flashpoint. All right. You know, this thing goes sideways. I'm not able to get this GS11 job and everything else. Well, let me go ahead and do this real estate thing and continue on. So I say that to say, make sure that if you have a plan, you have to action that plan, not just your primary plan. You have to be able to action everything simultaneously or sequentially, however it works out, for your timeline. But yeah, I think outside of that, I mean, there's just nuggets of information all over the place. I'd be happy to sit down and chat with anybody, DM through LinkedIn or otherwise, to share successes, failures with not only transition, but you spoke about mental health. It's something that I've been struggling with for several years, and I definitely am open about it and post about it on a semi-regular basis. So just get rid of the stigma and reduce that and tell people to get help, and help them through things. So yeah, 21 years, I've definitely learned a lot of things, what not to do, but I think there's my fair share of things that I've learned that are relatively successful. All things military to all the way up to transition at this point. So
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, so thank you for your service and being a great teammate out there. We didn't know each other online every day, but we all know that there's teammates out there that are just doing amazing things all across the force. So, I appreciate that. And, we all appreciate, definitely internally, all of our brothers and sisters that are doing amazing things out there, so thanks for serving during the really the height of the global war on terrorism, the whole length of time,
Yep.
That was one of the interesting things as I was kind of coming to a close, was thinking about that. I came in 6 weeks before 9/11, and then the world turned upside down. And then 20 years later, here I am. So
yeah,
it's a lot, man. It's a lot. I love the mental health plug because I'm definitely a mental health advocate, PTSD advocate. I have PTSD, but I'm not some crazed maniac out there running around in Centennial Park out there in Atlanta with my underwear on my head and, going crazy. That's not me. That's not most of us, probably 99.9% of us. So there's definitely the stigma on the inside of the military with getting the help, one, going to get it yourself, and two, the commands or teammates, peers supporting the individual to get the help, and sometimes long-term care that they need. So we've got to bust that stigma. We're done with that. Done. Events affect people differently. So same events affect people differently. So just because you are good to go after an event does not mean everyone else is. So, and you can't be judgmental, like, oh man, that little thing bothers you. Like, no, man, you don't know. It's not your place to judge it. So I love that shout out. We've got to keep connecting to each other. Our teammates out there, and especially with anyone with mental health challenges, let them know that we care. You're valued in this world, and you're valued to many people. And, if you need help, I'm here. But we got to continue to do, reaching out to them to let them know that. You see anybody disappearing out there on social media, you better hit them up. Okay. I know we're busy. I got it. I mean, text and social media, but I'm telling you, if they disappear, you better hit them up. Because if you all of a sudden they're gone and you're like, oh man, and you see it on Facebook, and then, man, I was gonna call them the other day, you better call them now.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. Not a shameless plug about your real estate stuff, man. I love it. Absolutely, man. I love it, dude. I'm gonna put this stuff on the So each episode goes as a blog post on my website too. And it's got all the links and stuff that we talk about throughout the show. So I'll put the links to, if you've got a link to your real estate page or even your LinkedIn profile, because I'll do the LinkedIn profile and put it on there.
Yep.
And anything else you want me to add on there. So absolutely. Thanks for being open for, people to DM you and connect with you on LinkedIn. I think that's really important too. And thank you for that. Cause not all people want, like they want to do their thing and they'll own their journey, but they're like, well, I don't want to, I don't want to help you. You go find your own stuff. And then there's not a lot of people like that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, ahead of time, allowing other veterans and teammates to come in and connect with you and learn from you and stuff like that. So thank you so much for that. Man, thanks for coming on the show. I mean, I love all my shows. I told you that, but like these, I don't know, man, these are just really special to me. Sharing information, helping other teammates out there, because I really want our veteran teammates to be successful, as we come out to the civilian sector. We have so much value to bring to the table. And I want them to be able to do that. And I want our civilian sector organizations to reap the benefits of that value too. So
Yeah.
I want it on both sides. So I love these episodes. And man, when I come across unique stories like yours, I'm like, holy smokes, man, people need to hear this stuff because there's others like you. That's the thing. There's others like you that are, so they're like, well, shit, man, how am I going to do this? Like, and then they're, flipping burgers at Burger King because it didn't work out, but you've got ways to help them get through it, So
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing everything. And I know for a fact, at a minimum, we're going to help at least one person. So that's really awesome. So
It's
thanks.
worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Definitely a good time. I enjoyed discussing and poking fun at my own, my own transition journey. But like you said, just you got to own your own journey. It's nobody else's transition. It's my transition, and I'm fully responsible for it. So,
Yep.
Yeah, it was good sharing, and I enjoyed being here. So
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, no problem, dude. I love it. Yeah, we got to own our journey, got to own our life outside the service and make the best of it too. So that's awesome. Well, all right. We're going to wrap the show up. Thanks everybody for tuning in to, another just great episode of Miller's Military Moments and, really military transition stories with some tips and resources with Luke. And so don't forget, I'll have all of his information on the blog post, which will have the episode linked to it on the website. So millersmilitarymoments.com. And then you can click the blog up at the top, and then it'll have that episode, this episode with all the different links, his LinkedIn profile, and plus some of the other links on it. So definitely check that out if you want to connect with him and then have access to his network too. So that's the power of the network, really. So yeah, definitely check all that out and all the other cool stuff we got going on, with the website. But here at Miller's Military Moments, man, we continue to share unfiltered stories of our military service. That's our main mission. And unfiltered stories, who knows what they really are. And military transition is one of those aspects of it that we're going to continue to do. And unfiltered means we don't have that PAO guy standing behind us saying you can't say that. All right. So, and I can't get in trouble anymore for anything I say. Well, for the most part. So, yeah. And we're also continuing to connect our veterans and civilians together through our stories, which is something we love to do too. So thanks again for tuning in, for joining in and, hanging out with us today and continuing to support the show. And as always, be kind, be compassionate, but be you. Until next time, peace.